Hello, I'm Ian, a volunteer with the Woodland Trust. I'm here today at Willesley Wood in the heart of the National Forest to show you some of the variety of wildlife that we have. Willesley was the first woodland planted in the National Forest in 1991, and it's one of 20 that the Woodland Trust own. We also have over 1,000 woods across the UK, ranging in size from a small back garden plot up to a massive 12,000 acres at Glenfinglas in Scotland. So let me show you some of the delights of Willesley Wood. We'll start our walk by having a look at the site map. Our walk starts over here, and we go then to have a look at the Royal British Legion Memorial Grove before going round the lake, round here, through 11 Acre Wood, and then having a look up at the top of the site before coming back down to the starting point. This is where the Saltersford Brook enters onto the Willesley Wood site. It comes in from Willesley Lake, having originated in Ashby, and it flows on through the Mease Valley and eventually into the Trent. As we move along the nice smooth path, we come to a little grove of trees which we have called Rest and Remember. We planted this in 2002 when the local branch of the Royal British Legion in Ashby and district raised £7,000 for the Woodland Trust to plant this beautiful area. Can you see how this opens up into a big wide area which catches the sunlight in the middle of the day? And we have two benches, which is where you can rest and remember your loved ones from the past. Along the edge of the lake we can see signs of life from underground, little mole hills. My Scottish grandfather used to call them the velvet-coated gentlemen. A beautiful small creature, almost blind, that live in tunnels underground. And there's a peacock butterfly. It looks almost black at the moment, but let's see if we can go in and have a look at him. Can you see those beautiful big spots on his wings? That's one of our prettiest butterflies, the peacock. This is a beautiful area in June, particularly when we see all the orchids coming out. These little flowers you can see in the front of me this is water mint, and look at that butterfly. That is a green-veined white butterfly feeding on the flowers. This mint is just like the mint that you would have on your new potatoes at home, but it has a slight... Today is a very good day for small tortoiseshell butterflies. Have a look at this pair sitting on the water mint. Oh, look, there's another peacock butterfly right in front of you. They sit with their wings open, which is very helpful so that we can identify them. a lot of butterflies will rest with their wings closed, and that makes it very difficult to tell which species they are. That's looking back to where we've just come from. And here we're finding the swans, look. Today the swans are here with their young, and this will be Mum. This will be Mum and her cygnets, and she has got 6 cygnets here. These were born in May, so they are nearly 3 months old, and they're coming to have a look. Oh no, this is Dad at the front. Dad is leading the way. Here comes Mum behind them. You see how fluffy and grey they are. They're what was called in an old children's song, the ugly ducklings, that grew up through the winter and turned into a beautiful big white swan. There's the whole family of them. They're making little peeping sounds because they're expecting to be fed. People obviously come down here and give them bread, which is not the best food for swans. Dad's at the front here, making sure that we don't get too close to his children. Can you see how these grey downy feathers, that's warning me off going too close to the children. Sorry there, Mum. Can you see they're just turning into feathers? They've got quills and they look quite scruffy. The down's coming off and the feathers are growing. Isn't that good of them to come and see us? I wish you well in the future, swans. Most of our native trees in the UK are what we would call deciduous or broadleaf, which means they drop their leaves in autumn, as opposed to the pine trees, which keep their needles green throughout the winter. We have a couple of evergreen trees, one of which is the holly you might see around at Christmas, and the yew, which is our longest lived old tree. These are oak leaves, the English oak, which can live to be 1,000 years old. Very distinctive, clear lobes or thumbs on the leaves. This is the hazel, the one that provides cob nuts or hazelnuts for us at Christmas. And it's quite easily told by its very large leaves, but if you feel them, they are very soft and downy. That's one way you can distinguish them from elm trees. Over here is the hawthorn that most people would recognise. It used to be called in my childhood bread and cheese because we would eat the young emerging leaves. I don't think it ever did taste much like bread and cheese. And here we have the dog rose, which produces beautiful small little roses in summer. Gentle walking like this through the woods can be very good for your health. First there's the fresh air and the relaxation of gentle exercise, which can help reduce stress and blood pressure. And it helps to lift your spirit as well, so it is good for your mental well-being. Something that we all need some help with sometimes. Over on the left now we've come to a bit of very old woodland. This is easily 200 years old, and I just want to show you some of the old trees that were cut down or fell over many years ago. Now look at this one. Here's a fallen oak tree which is decaying. It's been down on the ground for many, many years. And look, Here, a silver birch has seeded itself on the decaying trunk and has now grown into quite a big mature tree itself over the last 25 years or so. There's another old bit. This piece of woodland, when we first came across it in 1991, had been used for rearing pheasants, keeping pheasants for game shooting. And a lot of these trees were cut down. You see this trunk? Wonderful bits of old wood. Slowly, slowly rotting away, decaying into the woodland floor, making soil for more things to grow in. It's quite pleasant, and this is how the inside of an old woodland looks. We can look up at the top of the woodland, and that's called the canopy. All that thick, dense growth of leaves above us, providing shade for the woodland floor. But before that shade comes in and all the leaves grow, we get to see lots of bluebells in here and a few other special flowers of the spring months. It can be a bit tricky walking along here. You've got to watch where you're going in case you trip over any of these brambles. So we'll come out of the wood and back onto the path. We're coming round to the end of the old woodland area now, which we call 11-acre wood. And there you are, look at their railings, the old iron railings which formed a fence round this piece of woodland. They've grown through the trees have grown up through the railings, and they've all formed one intimate little sculpture now. Another new bench to sit and rest. And we'll finish off going round the circular path first. This dips down into the woodland. It feels different in here. Some of these trees are over 100 years old, and they have lost branches. Some of the trees have fallen or had to be cut down because they were dangerous, hanging over the footpath. There's a really dense growth in there that's very difficult to walk through, not recommended. Some of the plants, because it's so wet in here, this is a willow herb in front, and that goes up there easily 7 feet tall. A great big thing, beautiful. Can you see the tops of the ash trees in the distance there? Some of those trees are 80 feet tall or more, getting on for 100 feet up into the air. We've got a drainage ditch here because the water runs off the higher parts of the site, and it goes down through there and makes its way to the lake. Here's one of the old trees that fell over and had to be cut down. This is a big poplar tree, and look at the size of it. The children like to stand on the top and run along it. In fact, they've made themselves a little bridge over the ditch. This is why our woodlands are often called nature's cathedrals. Looking upwards from the path, up and up to the top of the canopy, and looking overhead, that's a nice view. Just a few bits of cloud and a lovely blue sky, and back down. Very relaxing and a pretty walk. More butterflies in here. Here's one of my favourites that I can see all year round. And if you can see him, that's a speckled wood butterfly. So we're having quite a good day for the butterflies. He's brown with white spots. I'm now walking away from the lake and the old woodlands up into an area which we planted 20 years ago. This is our extension woodland, and in it there are two bits of very old woodland, two small remnants. So I thought it would be nice to have a walk through this one on one of the paths and show you a few of the trees. These are some of my favourites. This is a hawthorn, an old gnarled hawthorn, many little stems. And here we've got one of the silver birch, which is often called the Lady of the Woods, the weeping birch or silver birch. Beautiful trunk. It's one of the nicest things to feel in the woodland. Getting up close, you have the lovely smooth, silvery bark from which it gets its name, and as they get old, it gets very rough, sharp and gnarled. Some of the silver birch in this piece of woodland are 100 years old, and that is very old for a birch. Oak trees can live to be 1,000 years old, but birch trees don't usually live that long. They're one of the first trees to set their seed and colonise new areas, but they don't live all that long. They replace themselves very quickly, and then other big trees come along. The oak, the ash, the poplar. Here's one of the oaks. This is one of the most beautiful oaks we've got here. Again, this is getting on for 100 years old. Because it's in a woodland, it is around that age. And as you look up an oak tree, this is the one type of tree which hosts more types of life, insects, birds, butterflies, etc., animals, squirrels, dormice. It hosts more species of life than any other tree in the UK. It's our native symbol. It's what we call the English oak. And a lot of our finest buildings are made of oak. Those very old Tudor buildings you might see, black and white, timbered, will be mostly made of oak. There's another big beauty in the background there. That's a similar age. And again, when you look up into them, what a lovely view. The sunlight comes through those branches, forms many, many patterns. Very pretty. It's a quiet walk to contemplate nature and think how beautiful it is. There is one of the oldest silver birch in the background, shining almost white in this sunlight. Quite an old tree. And lots more little oaks here. And then we have to come out of here back onto the main path. This is an area of older woodland I would like to have shown you in May. It looks a bit desolate and a bit dreary in August. All of these ancient trees, though, have been cut down and regrown, possibly many times. In May, this whole area was a sea of bluebells. Right into the far distance, from my feet all the way round, was a mass of blue. And we get many visitors coming to see the bluebells when they are at their height. I'll follow this little bit of video with some pictures of the bluebells as they are when they're at their peak. And it's a glorious sight we should all try and see at some stage in our life. It's August, the season of fruit and nuts in the forest, and on a lovely sunny day, have a look at the blackberries. People are taking these and they're bringing tubs, collecting them and making blackberry pies with them. But my preference is to eat them raw, straight off the bush. Look here, there's a comma. Let's see if I can get you a nice close look at it before he flies away. Can you see there? There's the comma butterfly, a better view this time. A nice example of it, close up. That's a beauty, nice adult. Butterflies are quite fascinating creatures. Some sit with their wings open, basking in the sunlight. But the butterfly is the adult. That is the bit we see. It has a life cycle of a year. These adults will lay their eggs on the nettles and the brambles. Those eggs will then turn into a little caterpillar, which goes through several stages of development. It rests through the winter, and then it eats leaves through the spring, and then it goes into yet another stage, its third stage, which is the pupa, and that is a hard-shelled little black slug-like creature. And from that, in the summertime, we get the adult butterflies, who will only live for, most species will only live for up to 2 or 3 weeks, but what glorious creatures they are while they're on the wing. He's resting for the afternoon, having a little nap in the sunshine. There we go again. There's the adult comma. This is one of the most popular spots at Willesley. I'm sitting on the bench, looking out over the lake in the distance, and we've been all over the site, right over to the far horizon. 2 ladies walking dogs down there by the lake, and there we have a closer view of the lake where we looked at the swans. Now we're leaving the old woodland, coming back out into the sunshine where we started about an hour ago. In fact, I've had a long pause because I stopped to talk to a lady about the woodland. She wanted to know lots about it, one of our regular dog walkers. And this is just so you can see where we've been all around the lake and back out at the British Legion Grove on our left. This is Rest and Remember. Well, that's the end of our walk today at Willesley Wood. Thanks for coming with me, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. If you'd like to know more about the Woodland Trust, our woods in the National Forest, or Willesley Wood in particular, let me know and I will let you have some information. You can contact me on the details following or through your Enrich contact person. Bye bye.